you're all ears. Chris and I are going to try and talk to you about what happened at Cooper's all them years ago and how we enjoyed it. So, without further ado, I'll get Chris to start and then we'll elaborate as we go along, alright?
So, welcome everybody, and to this special night. It's a one-off, first time as well. Both Tony and myself worked at John Cooper Garages. We have over 50 years of experience of working there. Tony was the chief engineer and I was a service advisor. So Tony was there 18 months before I started, and I started in 1982. Now, John Cooper Garages in Ferring was opened by Jack Brabham, this is a copy of this opening invitation. Directors of John Cooper Garages Limited request the pleasure of company of the official opening by Jack Brabham, OBE, of John Cooper Garage Showroom and Filling Station, 50 Ferring Street, Sussex, Monday the 19th of July 1971. That was 2 days after John Cooper's birthday, so that was quite a few years before we were there. The property he actually bought was Ferring Motors, this was before John Cooper Garages became what they were, but this was the property he bought back in 1971. John Cooper came down to West Sussex after a life-threatening accident on the A3 in a 20 Mini in 1965, where he went off the road and almost killed himself. Now he was off for several years convalescing, and he finally was getting better and decided it was time to work again. The real reason for returning to work was that he was getting under his wife Paula's feet. He was getting on her nerves. John Cooper was a very active man, and one of the first cars I drove when I first started Cooper's was Mike and John's Metro Cooper, which I now own. It's the only one left in existence. That's this car here, and Tony actually built this vehicle back in 1981.
Yeah, it was one of John's better ideas. He said, let's make it into a bit of a sports car. So we took a 1300 Metro engine and put twin carbs on it, and different exhaust, different stationary head, and then decided to go to Goodwood with it. And Mr. Angelo, the guy here on the right there, he decided to go down the straight at Goodwood with his foot flat to the floor, but when he got to the other end it was still on the floor. So what did he do? He took the ignition key out and went straight on. We had a few development problems with that, but it was all fixed, and then we decided to go to Rover with them, and they then came out with their own version of it called a Metro MG. But that was the start of it when we went to Rover with that car.
Did they nick your ideas then, did they?
They did nick our ideas once again, yeah.
Didn't want to pay you.
No, absolutely.
So we were obviously British Leyland dealership then, and so Austin Maxis and Allegros and
top of the range stuff.
So this was their little brochure that they had coming to Cooper's, and Austin Maxis, Minis, Allegros, MGs and Wolseys were just some of the cars that they were doing when I first started, and Tony. So there was a couple of bits there. Now, John Cooper went to the British Grand Prix in 1985. When he came back, he had some great news to tell us. And the news was that he had met the head of Honda. From the meeting, he was told that he was going to actually build, they were going to have the Honda dealership. Now Cooper's actually built their very first Honda Formula One car, but I can't remember what year. But this is from that day.
I think it was 64. I think it was.
Was it 64?
Yeah.
So John Cooper was guest of honour that day at Silverstone. Now I've got the proper invitation that he had with the menu and everything, but I've obviously just photocopied it so you can see it better. Now that, funny enough, we said about the 19th of July when they opened in 1971. This was the 19th of July 1985. So quite a few things happened on that 19th of July. So then a year later we became Honda dealers. So we had our jackets like this, didn't we, Tony?
We had our grey jackets, yeah, with our Honda logos on them. And with John's heritage of Formula One racing, when we became Honda dealership, we were also top of the range for NSX S2000s Integras, so it was a prestigious dealership for those cars as well, which we all enjoyed driving. Didn't we, Clive?
So things were starting to grow. We'd lost out on the Metro, so we decided that obviously that wasn't going to work, but you couldn't knock the old man Cooper down.
No, he always wanted to get...
Would he?
No, he always had an idea, so it was a bit like Michael Caine. I've got an idea, lads, let's see what we can do. And off he went back to Rover with another idea.
And we started building kits for Japan, because they wanted car tuning kits for a 998 and 1275s. So Tony, I think Paul as well, didn't you, Paul? Don't know if Clive did, but you built the boxes.
We started to, yeah.
So this was one of the boxes that they built, Tony and I think they had the right way round. This was one of the tuning boxes.
Will you do that? Because you had it that way, I was doing it that way. Yeah. And we used to slot all the stuff into that box and screw the lid down, and off it went to Japan.
And Andy Beach used to take them up to Heathrow, covered it obviously in cardboard, and off they went to Japan. This one's come back now. I don't know if it's got your name on it, Paul, but one of you built it in that workshop.
Mine. The best artist always sign it.
Yeah.
But yes, that was.
But some of them, they never actually fitted to the cars. They just took them over there. The Japanese were fanatical about minis, and they just wanted to have a John Cooper kit, but have it as a table, nothing more. They never went on the car.
No, it didn't.
No.
And we had film crews come round, and they've got film crews coming in and doing the photography, didn't
Yeah,
we?
we
With
did.
the boxes and,
With the boxes.
and the kits. And as we know that Darren's got one of the 998 kits on his anniversary car.
Yeah, that's part of the kits which we used to fit to the car, which went into the boxes, and that went all around the world, didn't it? With those
It did,
books,
yeah. Cylinder head and exhaust.
How did John find out that the Japanese wanted these kits?
Through John, with his contacts in Japan, they came back to him and said, we've got a market for this type of kit, which went to Japan first, and then again we then started to sell them in the UK as well. But they never got the kit, they never got the boxes in the UK. It was only for the Japanese market.
Right.
No, a lot of them were fitted at Rover dealerships.
Sorry, I've lost myself now. Tony.
Go on.
So yeah, so we had quite a lot of these boxes that went. What do you reckon we had?
Sale-wise?
The boxes went out there. I think this one's about 270
Yeah, it must have been nearly 1,000, I should think.
that went out to Japan. Got where we are, Tony.
Come on, man.
So we went on from building the anniversary cars here, like Darren's got, which was a flame, a racing green, and the Mini 30, and a jet black, which these were the same kits that were going out to Japan. So we did the anniversary cars. Now Howard's car is a G828, was an anniversary car to start with, which I think you built as well.
I did build that car, and then we turned it into a 1275, and along with the red one, which also went to Rover, which was the predecessor for the RSP car. And there's a magazine there with the first article when it was built, which you can all have a look at later. But then that car went there, and Rover's proviso was if you could sell 1,000 of those cars, then they would relaunch the 1275 Minis. Otherwise, it can be the death of the Mini, wasn't
That's
it?
right, yeah. And those RSPs sold within a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as Tony says,
So
that would have been the end of Mini. So it was, but it was one of your ideas to put the 1275 in with John Cooper, wasn't it?
It was again, yeah. Another one of mine. Well, one of his ideas, but I just went along with it. We fitted the retro engine back into the Mini, which obviously had nearly been done before, and then again went to Rover with the twin carbs, but their version came out again yet with a single carburetor on it, which they then called the RSP, and so it was relaunched again, which then went on for a further 10 years till 2000, didn't it? With various guises with a single point injection and the twin point injection, which we also did the kits for, as you know, with the cylinder heads, the carburetors, the injection system, exhausts, to sell the kits again right up to 2001 with the JCW logo on it.
And in between that, we had other cars that we built, didn't we, Tone? We did the Grand Prix.
Yeah, we came along with another version to sell a few more, which was on the front of that magazine there. There's John there with that, which was a special Weber Alpha system on it. Not the most successful system in the world, but because it always needed adjusting, but we also did that.
And other pictures of the Grand Prix, because they had special, we did leather cover seats, and everything, you know, they had a lot of things on them. We were supposed to have built 35, but I think they only sold 32.
Yeah, we didn't do so well with those.
But it didn't take off as well as we hoped, but we sold, as you say, 32, so that wasn't a bad...
and who knows if any still about? Anybody?
Yeah, we know of Nietzsche's car, don't we? He lives at Findon.
Does he?
Local one.
Is that a Grand Prix?
Grand Prix,
It's a Grand Prix. I know,
Number 4, that one.
Yeah.
I know one, that's a wooden picket.
Oh, okay, no, that's different. Yeah.
Still got Weber Alpha system.
Has it got it on there? Yeah.
Well, we were saying about the Weber Alpha.
Walter's got one, hasn't he? Chris, Walter's got one still.
What, a GP? Yeah. Well, with the weather on it still.
Holland.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah, Walter.
But we did, with the Grand Prix, we used to put a little special badge on the glove box as well, the Grand Prix.
Brass and green badge, wasn't it? Yeah.
Which was a nice touch. And there was other cars we built in between.
We did a few 1400 specials as well, twin cars when the RSP came out. The special build for they had a Swift Tune 1380 engine in them, which again you could have with a twin carb conversion or a single carb, which depending on which power delivery you wanted on that. Also option of a 5-speed box wasn't there as well.
Yeah.
So those were early day conversions. Again, not many people took up the 1400 because it was about a £4 conversion at the time.
So it was quite a lot of money, wasn't it? But we still know of a couple about, don't we?
Yeah, they still live out today.
Then we had, we built, there was the Mini 35 we did, didn't we? We did 5 of those, which is one of Ken's, which is a bit of a special car. Oh yeah, but he hasn't got another one of the 5 that we built. And it was imported, wasn't it, like this box?
It came back on the box.
Yeah.
What bits?
Yeah, mine's still going, Chris.
So, yeah, so in that time we had quite a few press and film companies that used to turn up, borrowing the demo cars and for magazines. We had Top Gear and Plate people, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
That come and did a lot of work.
Articles on it all.
And in between, obviously, we had a lot of people that celebrities that turned up. You know, Jack Brabham and John Surtees and Paddy and John Rhodes.
Yeah.
All people that you know, came down to see John Cooper, which he always introduced us to as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Then we did the Cooper Tourings and the 5-speed.
5-speed, more jackknife boxes, which was the bugbear of my life because they were always going wrong. One of John Cooper's finest hours was he used to come in and say on a Monday morning and say, what's that car, and I used to have to tell him that they've all got 5-speed gearbox problems, and he used to go absolutely mad. He was on the phone, get him on the phone now, I'm going to speak to Jack Knight this minute. Oh,
he had to do it right there and then, didn't he?
He did, it had to
Jack
be
Knight on the phone.
Get him on the phone now, yeah, but it's only 8:30 in the morning. Get him on the phone, that was all he used to say. It's not good enough, and he used to stomp up across the workshop backwards and forwards until he got it right. Till someone picked up the phone and said, I've got him, but you know, it was so hard.
It took him a while to calm down, didn't it?
Every day, yeah.
Monday mornings was a nightmare, wasn't it?
It was. Such a nice
guy.
And thanks to Chris, I used to get it all.
I said Tony knows.
Yeah.
Good old Tony, he had a couple
I had big, broad shoulders then, yeah.
You're a bit taller.
Yeah, I was a lot taller then, yeah.
But in between all those times when, you know, when he did used to get cross, he'd always treat us to Christmas meals, and when it was the payday just before Christmas, he would always come round personally and give you an extra packet, because we always used to get money in a brown wallet, and he'd always give us double wages for so we'd get an extra set of money, and then we'd have a Christmas meal which we enjoyed, Paul and Clive, didn't we?
Yeah, we all got banned from places.
Can't think why.
But yeah, we had a lot of good times with those Christmas dinners, and John Cooper would then always tell us a few stories. He'd get up and tell us motorsport stories, and it was a job to know, because obviously we weren't there when those happened, but I do understand it a little bit more now, and those people unfortunately have sort of disappeared and passed over, but the stories were absolutely amazing, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
But then, you know, I needed a little bit more money, so I helped out with sales every Saturday. So that was my little job on a Saturday, selling classic minis in the showroom at Ferring at the time. And one of the funny stories was, it was Saturday morning, and John Cooper told me that there was somebody was coming to pick their car up, and I needed to go up to the post office and go and get it taxed, which I did many times because it was only a few shops along. And when I got to the post office. I thought, oh, I haven't got the insurance. I went back and I said to Mr. Cooper, we haven't got the insurance because with a tax disc, if you want a tax disc, you had to take the insurance as well back in the day. So I said, oh, there's no insurance. No, don't worry about that. Peter will sort that out in the post office. So I said, okay, Mr. Cooper, I'll go back up. So I went in there and I said, I haven't got the insurance, Peter. He said, no, I'm sorry, I can't tax it. I said, oh, right, okay. I walked back with John Cooper, back to the garage. And when I got back in there, I said to Mr. Cooper, he said, right, come with me, Chris, come with me. So he's walking up like this, stomping up to the post office. Right, Peter, I understand you won't give Chris the road tax because we haven't got the insurance, but you've got to help me out. Please help me out. The bloke's coming from, I can't remember, it was a long distance he was coming, and he, please help me out, Peter. No, I can't issue it, Mr. Cooper. Funny enough, 3 or 4 weeks ago I saw him the other day and we went, he's the only one that ever witnessed this, but we were in the post office and it's quite a big post office in Ferring at the time, in stationery, and he said, Peter, you have got to give me that road tax now! And he didn't give him it. So with that, he never got the road tax, but I don't know what happened to the customer, so I just went, la. But yeah, Peter was the only one that can say he actually witnessed that with me, but that was, but yes, so Saturdays was quite an interesting, time with lots of people. The interest was just to come and watch and look and see the minis was quite something.
I did see another one of his episodes as well one day in the workshop. Something didn't go right to plan and he was in a classic Mini and he shouted something to somebody and they didn't do it immediately, so he got hold of the door of the car and he slammed it so hard that it just shattered the window. And he went, right, fix that now, I'm going. And that was but yeah, but as soon as that was over, he was as nice as pie again. He would blow hot and cold, but he was a lovely guy.
And
really
then tell you another.
And then come up with another story.
Yeah. But we did lots of shows as well, didn't we?
We did,
that time.
yeah.
We went to Bewley, Brighton, Silverstone. And two gentlemen in here remember that very well, or don't remember it.
Try not to. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had some great times at Silverstone, didn't we? At the 40th birthday party, and I think I've still got my shirt in here from the 40th as well.
Have you?
On the flag. I've got a flag from it.
Yeah, 40th
I'm supposed to
anniversary
mention
shirts. Do you remember we all had these?
Crikey, Chris.
With our names on it, and 40th anniversary.
Wow.
So yeah, we all were given blue shirts with a name and embroidered in over that time, didn't we, Tony?
Yep. No one to mine.
Sorry. Yeah, so part of my job was also on the front desk was pricing up and costing of people's wishes and requirements, what they wanted on conversions, wheels, suspension, chrome accessories, sunroof, even resprays. And a lot of people would spend a lot of money, haven't they?
Yeah.
We had people like, we built cars for Kate Moss, which was this one. I think it was Duncan that built that one, was it?
Possibly, yeah.
With leopard skin carpets. She couldn't even drive at the time though.
Paisley headlining, leopard skin
Yes.
carpet, sheepskin rugs, it was all sorts of things we used to put in them.
She hadn't even passed her test, so.
Harry Himes, we built him a big car, didn't we?
Yes,
little
we
car
did.
with fridges in it, TV in the back of the seats. And this was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It
that we
was
were
a
doing
long
that?
time ago.
Yeah.
We had a special one we built for George Wong, didn't we?
Yeah.
That went on the Big Breakfast TV, which Paul Sibley built, which was this one, and I think it was 53,000, wasn't it? So at the time, it had a karaoke machine in it. All imagine it had it, didn't it? And he was going to do something with Battersea Power Station, this George Wong, but again that was something that fell out.
He used to make super yachts, the guy did, yeah. So he wasn't short for bobbles then.
So yeah, so we had times like we went because of Honda as well. We had the motor shows at Steam Gardens with Honda, and I used to go down there with John Cooper's daughter, eldest daughter Tina. We would sit there if it and watch. She'd bring her little television down, and we would watch the tennis for the week, and then she'd bring down wine and beer, and we would be sitting and have wine and beer when I'm supposed to be out there talking to customers. But unfortunately, sadly, she's not with us anymore. We lost her at the age of 47. Now things started to change a little bit with Honda. They wanted minis out of it really.
At Ferring, yeah.
At Ferring, and they were sort of looking. So John and Mike started looking for another garage premises, and then finally they found one in East Preston, and the deal was completed at the end of 1998, which Ferring was still building classic minis because people still like going back there. But then we had people like Richard de Jong took the reins at East Preston, Rob Jones and Mike Raven went over, and Alan Winchester come on board, and later Kevin Fulbrook. Now this was Ferring and East Preston for that was done at the first year, which obviously they had the old showroom, which was quite antiquated, wasn't it?
Very much so, yeah.
And I think Lynn and that, you used to come down there, didn't you, on visits and things, and it was lovely, wasn't it? Yeah. So then I went over a year later, and then Tony followed.
99, doesn't it? Yeah, came over.
Just around about 2000.
Yeah.
Then. In between that, we actually bought a John Cooper limited edition. Now you probably know that Mrs. Cooper's we did 25 special ones. Now these cars were numbered a bit like the Grand Prix, with all our special bits on, and Mrs. Cooper's has just sold at auction for just over £50,000. Now it wasn't even one of the 25, but this is where this come in my part of my life, because my wife Debbie decided that she wanted to buy one of these 25s, which this was her car, obviously with her number plate on, that she bought with it to go on, because hers was number 23. And she came to pick it up, and when she picked it up, she came with her brother, and she said, this bonnet feels a little bit different to the rest of the car. Now as we were by the railway line in East Preston there, we had fallout on the cars. But what happened, obviously our car sat in the showroom, but it got dented, so we had to change it with another bonnet. So I went out there with some polish to try and polish it off, and obviously I should have really taken the clay block really and done it with that, but so obviously Deb didn't know that what had happened at the time, and then she used to come down.
It doesn't know now.
Yeah, but the thing was, it wasn't on the bonnet stripes, was it? That was what drew our attention to it. That fallout was on the bonnet, but not on the stripes.
Not on the stripes, yeah.
And we couldn't understand why it was only on that part of the bonnet as well.
So then Deb.
So Chris had to come and sort it out.
Yes.
Sort out an angry customer.
Yeah. He's angry across the wire.
Then Deb obviously used to come down to have the car serviced, and used to have a couple with us and things. And then she used to phone up, and of course she had trouble with the emissions, as we know, on the 90 brake horsepower conversions. And she phoned me one day, and she said she had a couple of little problems in her life, and we just went from there. So it brought us together. So something came out of it, good. So yeah, so we were obviously doing those, and then it was the start of John
And it
Cooper.
was the start of the new Mini, wasn't it? Then that from 98, we used to take John up to the factory at Rover for the pre-production cars for the new Mini, which Rover had obviously got drawings of and were trying to put into production with their Rover engines. And that started in 97, 98, 99, when John used to go up there because they wanted his input on how the car should drive and handle and things like that. So that was the beginning of it off with the new Mini was coming, as it were. But Rover unfortunately didn't have the finances to put it into production, which is when BMW came along and bought the name from them, and that's when it then went to Oxford to be built. But John had a lot of input in the early years as to how the car, which we all know the Mark 1 Coopers and the S's drive so much better than the rest of them do, because of his inputs. But then I used to say, go up to the factory with him and drive the cars and meet all the people up there. And that was then when we got back to East Preston, and then the start of the Cooper conversion kits came along, because his first thought was, oh, we must tune this one up now, well, before it came out. So then we started work on the new ones with a cylinder head, exhaust, that sort of thing, which came along. And this one in there's a Club Sport car here now, isn't there?
Yeah, we've got Kev's Club Sport car.
Yeah. Which is a very nice example.
It used to belong to Joe Bamford, didn't it?
It did, yes. To say it's got no
Head
miles
of,
on it at all.
JCB.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also, again, which was the birth of the challenge cars, but that came about when Michael and John were asked to build celebrity cars before the Australian Grand Prix. So again, he came to me and said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, if you've got that offer, we've got to build the cars. We can't not build the cars for that. That's, you know, it's a worldwide stage. We've got to be doing this. So he said, well, build them then, sort of thing. It was one of, yeah, go off you go then, sort of. So then we had to sort of get a plan together on what sort of cars they wanted, and plan to get these cars built for the celebrity race of the Grand Prix. So it came about that we'd put roll cages in them, keep them as near to a road car as I could, but with the sports bits on them. Roll cages, exhaust, brakes, things like that. Suspension units. So we did that, and it was very successful. Off the cars went to Australia, and they were used before the Grand Prix as a celebrity race, which I think Michael went to, didn't he, and drove one of the
he
cars.
came third, didn't he? In that?
And then on the back of that, when he came back, it was, well, let's start a race series in the UK, because we know how to build we know how to build a race car now, sort of thing was his attitude. But it wasn't quite as simple as that. But we were also running we were building more Club Sport road cars, and then of course we were trying to develop the S's, because they were coming along in 2002, 2003. So on top of that, we then said, well, let's build some of our own challenge cars. So we started to build the challenge cars as well. So it was a bit of a full-on time with the early 2001, 2, 3, 4 was really hectic. But we've got the challenge cars going, and we sold 20 cars again very quickly, which we put into, they had 6 events. They had 2 hill climbs, 2 sprints and 2 races, which was a good format to start with. Everybody loved it, and we say we couldn't build enough cars for the start of it. which all went to Goodwood, which had like the launch day there, which was attended really well. We could have sold more if we could have built them, but it was a good time. And then on top of that, we were going backwards and forwards to Gaydon, testing for the new R53 when it came along, and the club sport cars. BMW they weren't so keen on the club sport cars. They didn't like the idea of changing cylinder heads and things, so they came out with their own version, which was a sound pack, which really didn't do it for many people. You were supposed to adjust the tube to get the sound of what engine noise you wanted, but it wasn't very good. But again, a lot of testing went on. We went, I was lucky enough to go to Miramax, Spa, all sorts of places testing the R53. When we'd finally come up with a conversion which we thought was going to be the one for the cars, we had to then, obviously we presented it to BMW, and they said, well, it's going to work, but we will only sign it off if you do a 24-hour race. So we ended up having to do the 24-hour race in the Nürburgring. I don't know if anybody's been to the Nürburgring. It's one hell of a circuit, and they expected it to finish before they'd sign off the conversion, and that's what we had to do. We went there with 2 engines, 2 cars, and one of the cars finished the whole event with we had 2 German drivers as well, which also had to be part of the team to sign it off. So we did the car, it went to there, and it was a success, luckily. And then since then, the R53 JCW kit was born, as it were, and that's how it started. I think to date, or when we did the Mark I version of that, they sold over 20,000 kits, or Michael did, so it was quite successful for him. Hence when they said to him, we want your name, as they say, and then the Works brand was taken over. On top of that, what do we do then? With the challenge, obviously the challenge cars then, we had to keep running that every year as well. Which went from strength to strength. I don't know anybody still watches the touring cars, because now the Mini Challenge is part of the touring car package. So it is still going, and that I'm proud to know that it was all part of John Cooper's when it started.
As of today, it's now a qualifying race series for the BRDC, so if you finish in the top 4, you can become a BRDC.
So there we are, which is it's gone a little bit away from what our original concept was, which was to have a club sport race car. Now I'm afraid it's a bit more, if you've got enough pennies to run in it, because it's a very expensive series to be in, but still proud to be part of what happened at Cooper's. And that was a start.
The club sport car, you could drive to the race.
You could drive, well, that was the original concept. You could get in it, drive it to the race circuit, put your other harness on, and go and practice, go and race the thing. But yeah.
Did you used to switch number plates on cars?
Never.
Didn't you? I'm going to show a photograph.
Wouldn't dream of it. Wouldn't. I'm sure something happened like that. Yes.
Yeah, on the R50.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Tiff Liddell that they're on the internet. Well, he's
You
got,
see it somewhere. Yeah.
yes, that's my registration number
Is it?
on my John Cooper Works number 3 car.
Yeah.
On that club sport car.
Right.
Obviously that was taxed, and I just
We just borrowed them, I think, for the
Yeah.
day. But yeah, there is a picture of Tiff Liddell with, and we went to Thruxton and against a John Rhodes, wasn't it?
Yes.
And they had a test around the circuit there. Obviously, it was a lot more powerful than John Rhodes, but they swapped driving and things like that, which was really interesting and fun to do. And then from there, was that 2006 when things came to a head at Cooper's, when the Germans said, well, we'll offer you all this money for the John Cooper Works name. And he sold himself out to the Germans, and that meant that Chris and I were no longer required, as it were.
We're now telling his story.
Yeah, and we're telling his story, but yeah, I know, I think if we all got offered enough money, we'd stop doing it, wouldn't we? I don't know.
He didn't really have much choice, though,
No, I think they backed him into a corner, really, but he took the money and ran, and as I say, it was all folded up at East Preston.
Which was in 2006.
2006, and then from there I carried on. I went and moved to Shoreham, and obviously took the customer base with me. And carried on with the Mini Challenge for another 7 years before we sold that on, and I'm still doing minis and JCWs to this day. Still playing with minis. Did 26 years for John, and I've been at Shoreham for a further 16. So yeah.
So we
Would
did
you
well.
say that a 51 plate tuning kit car
Yeah.
is quite an unusual, a rare car?
Very, yeah, there's not many.
2002, the Cooper S-Connect was more powerful.
More
Less
powerful,
money than the
and
conversion.
you could still buy a sound pack from BMW for the Coopers or R50, but yeah, there's not many tuning kit ones, which was what we put onto the Club Sport cars.
Only a couple hundred.
But
It was few, wasn't it?
it's about 200, yeah.
But with the when we were still at Coopers, with the Coopers and that, I used to obviously still be on the front desk, and that was my desk at East Preston there. And people used to come up to me, and of course I would then try and sell them the conversion pack. So that, you know, as Kev was just saying, we had the R50s that I sold, and we'd have a demo, and I'd take them up the road for sort of 5 or 6 miles. They would come back and say yes, they want it, and then I would book them in, and it could be done in a day. Same with the R53s, John Cooper Works cars. Did that, then people added other bits, seats and brakes and carbon
Suspension,
bits,
everything, yeah.
So that was quite fun, pricing up those bits.
You would say some very expensive cars. We did Simon Cowell's car. Who
Yeah,
else
we
did we
did.
do?
Yeah.
We had 2 of those, didn't
We
we?
had 2 cars.
Yeah. And we did a lot of special cars again, which people just spec to the higher spec, didn't they, for the R53s and the R50s. And then further on to the motor racing part, I don't know if anybody knows that Mike Cooper's son then started racing in the Mini Challenge at the touring car end of it, which he did for 2 seasons. And then, I don't know whether you saw anything at Goodwood last week or the week before, he's got a Swift Tune racing car which he managed to smash up at the weekend. But just to say that Cooper's is still involved with motor racing, which is good, which is what we all love to hear, really. It hasn't died, it's still going on.
And they still own the name,
Yeah.
John Cooper Car Company.
They do.
The Cooper Car Company name. John Cooper Works name was just a, what's the name? Just a,
BMW name, isn't it?
no, John Cooper Works was just a brand name.
Name, yeah.
It was never a company name, even though we called ourselves John Cooper Works. But we had things like, I've still got, from the days, we've still got some of the memorabilia bits and pieces, haven't we?
I bet you sleep on that, don't you?
Yes, it does. It's his blanket.
You can see it's just a little stains on it, yeah. But,
Well, we don't want to know about the stains.
but yeah, so these are just some of the bits, haven't we? And we had one of the,
That's lovely.
it was one of the old Cooper,
Yeah.
Stolen. Oh, the Coco's around side. I've got some of them, yeah.
these are they're in the showroom, and
You've got
obviously
the front
this is
one.
one of the
Which used to be on the
on the walls.
former junior cars as well, this logo, didn't it? On
It
the
did,
badges,
yeah. So
When you were pricing up the kits and all that, did anybody ever say anything about the Harker tune cars?
yes,
Harder, yeah.
yeah, they did.
Did they? They said I could get that done cheaper and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They did, yeah?
They tried to, yeah, well, but if you want a cheaper one, you went there, but if you came to John Cooper Works, you had one of ours, It was strange that they try and even say that they could get it cheaper elsewhere when it wasn't the brand that we were selling.
No, we know people a lot.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Schnitzer version as well.
Oh, there was all sorts, weren't there?
These were in competition with us as well, weren't they? At the time.
Right,
This
you
is
get one, don't
what Tony had to go over to the Nürburgring to prove that car.
That our car worked, whereas none of the others had that kudos of a proper test, if you like. Yeah, you could all put a tuning kit on it, but
Yeah.
BMW weren't going to sign it off and say that it was approved. It was only the John Cooper Works kit that was approved.
What I always thought was John Cooper Works was old school, like big valve head, camshafts.
Yeah.
The others were just like, we're going to trick that, we're going to tell that it's got that. And,
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's
that sort
right.
of thing.
I don't think they did the heads, did they?
No, Hartford didn't. No.
Oh,
No.
Hartley didn't.
No.
Still same horsepower.
It was the same horsepower, but as I said, we had to go through all that rigorous testing before the BMW would sign it off. You know, they weren't going to warrant something that wasn't going to work for 100,000 miles.
No. I've had them side by side on dual carriageway.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Hartcombe one is really raw and
Yeah.
rough and
Yes,
noisy. And,
that's right. It was.
and the John Cooper Works one is just like,
it was smooth.
Smooth.
Yeah, and it lasts the course. You know.
yeah, if you remember that RDLC 350 motorbike, a hooligan's bike. It's
Yeah.
like that and a Honda Goldwing. That's
Well,
what I
yeah,
like.
yeah.
That's what I
Bit
just
more
like.
refined, but you still get the
But
same.
still
yeah.
just as quick, yeah. Well, that's what I thought.
But we got some more memorabilia and things down here. If you want to come and have a look at it all and see what we got up to. I expect you've all seen them before, but there's bits to look at, and
Some of the bits I haven't seen that Tony's got,
yeah,
vice versa.
there's a pair of Chris's Cooper underpants down here.
So is there any other questions that people want to ask that went on
Remember the Dysons involved in the challenge?
They were
from the
one of the
start?
first cars I can't remember the
No,
number
he was
of the
number
car.
one. Yeah,
He was
Phil-
number one. Phil had number one, and then his son had one as well. So they were early on, very early days.
He wrecked one, didn't he? On the
He wrote one off on the Wiscombe downhill climb. Ross rolled it, yeah. He only won, I'm afraid, that he did that, yeah.
It's a possibility one of the cars you converted might be coming up for sale shortly.
Really?
The Cooper Rose.
Yes,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Jill said she might be selling that.
Yes, I did hear that yesterday.
Did you?
That was an anniversary car,
anniversary
so-
one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Could be something Darren might be interested in.
Where are the soapboxes?
Who's got the T92?
I did have it, but Mr. Cooper took it back
Did he?
What,
to
Mike
do
Cooper?
a show, and then I never saw it again.
Mike Cooper.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Because we used to, well, Tony, Clive, Paul used to get involved in building, we built 3 soapboxes.
There were 3 heading up.
Goodwood Festival Speed.
You weren't expected to, were you?
Clive, here in the middle, he piloted
driver.
2, didn't you?
Yeah, first two.
Got
You
pictures
speak
with
then as you are now.
Sorry?
You quick then as you are now.
No.
Weight-wise, no.
Exactly. You need a bit more weight.
I was the only one in the company that had motorbike leathers. That's the only reason I got the job.
That was a good enough qualification to get in. I've got a picture of it here somewhere.
Stupid enough.
that'll be one of the later brochures.
Wasn't that a T500 nose cone or something?
Yeah, the first one, yeah, that's the one I had, but Michael still got it, yeah.
He's probably got it in his garden shed.
He has, yeah.
He's put a motor on it apparently.
Did he?
Yeah, would be a surprise. It's like he's electrified his van.
Don't know if there's a one in there.
I thought I had a picture of it here somewhere, that had a bit of cutting of it. Sure I did. But it was the second one, which was the all-enclosed one.
But I've still got things like the John Cooper Garage handbook things. Don't know why, but
Code of practice.
still haven't read it yet.
But it wasn't about where we were.
Cooper Border.
Holder, yeah. So things like that. Calendars. We had a nice
You weren't
calendar, didn't we?
exploring.
Yes.
Oh, Mr.
Yeah, that was
Cooper,
meant
Mr.
to be
Cooper
one.
never
I've got
liked
one
it.
of those.
We had so many left over, I had to send them out as gifts at one time. But
Sought
obviously,
after now, Chris.
sorry,
They're sought after.
they are now.
It's a yearly prize as well.
Did-
Christmas, that year.
I did say show Tony earlier, and obviously we've got the Cooper. Just going back to the Cooper Metro, it wasn't allowed to be called the Metro Cooper because of they'd sold the name Cooper Car Company, and then they had to name it as the Monaco. Now that was the badge that went on it. That's the Monaco badge.
Which was again from his early
It's the only
motoring
one
days.
I've ever seen.
He produced a Monaco race car
But it's the only Monaco badge
in existence.
that I know of.
Yeah, yeah.
Just don't know
In
of.
existence.
Oh, quick.
Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, put it in the raffle. Yeah, everybody. You want to call us buy some more tickets? Yeah. But yeah, there was lots of other things. I mean, we've got a picture here of Michael. That this was quite a special car as
That's the
well.
one I went round inspiring, yeah.
This is one that Tony went round inspiring, which was
X100S
Michael
FUN.
at East Preston.
X100 FUN.
Yeah, and we got Kevin working on a classic in the background here.
I think
That
that's the
was-
one he had in the garage on his funeral.
And then here we've got one of these plaque things that we've got here, one of the Cooper things that used to go on the wall. But yeah, you can see all that.
Yeah, that was the first test back. Cooper, that was, wasn't it?
That was it had to
Went
go
round,
back.
yeah. Went back to the factory, yeah.
Did you race miniatures yourself, Tony?
Did I race
Come
them?
over to this.
No, as in
Not in a series,
Went out
no.
the back.
No, I did all the testing, yeah. Yeah.
We had leather jackets that we used to sell with John Cooper. And he did do another one with John Cooper's signature on there, but this has got the label inside the actual jacket, which is quite a rare. Rare. We didn't sell many of them, so.
It's got the Cooper logo.
But, any more questions? Paul.
Who's got a set of lace over himself for a crossbar?
He probably would, yeah. Pink as well.
They were black and white. I might know where there's some.
Yeah?
Right then, on behalf of West Sussex and the other crew, well, I'd like to thank you two guys for turning up and giving us a great